Suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe. Stacked them neatly in one of the rooms of the West Wing, and then he put both barrels of a shotgun in his mouth. Police, they thought that it was what the old-timers used to call cabin fever. Kind of claustrophobic reaction which can occur when people are shut in together over long periods of time.
Well, that is quite a story.
I've come such a long way. I've been searching for you everywhere.
Well, I say,
Oh, we're going to be married again. Are you one of the wedding guests?
better go to your room, Bertha.
Edward, who is she? What does she mean? Bertha. Let me go. Let me go. I must stay with Edward.
No, now come along.
You can't separate me from my husband again. No one shall.
No, dear, of course not.
No.
Bertha.
So she's a figure of madness, and we know from looking at this book here, Modern Domestic Medicine, which was owned by the Bronte family, heavily annotated by their father, Patrick Bronte. We know from this just how interested they were in bodily processes and psychological processes and mental processes. And you see them exploring here in the medical literature, and then working it through in the novel. What are the bodily signs and symptoms that we need to be most attuned to? What will it tell us about the status of our minds or of our bodies, how diseased they are or how healthy they are? And that's there, absolutely the centre of the book, with, in some ways, the most famous character in it, the madwoman in the attic, the sense that somewhere hidden in the secure domestic home is a backstory and an otherness that must be confronted and which can come out and get you in the middle of the night. And it's associated with madness, with haunting, with hallucinations, and with fear.
Here's Johnny! White man's burden, Lloyd, my man. White man's burden.
The poster that came out in Europe, at least in England, I believe, before the movie was released in Europe, said the wave of terror that swept across America. And Kubrick controlled the posters very carefully. Now, it made you do a double take. I remember seeing it in Europe. I was the Rome bureau chief at the time for ABC News, and I remember looking at it, the wave of terror that swept across America. What's he talking about? And you'd sort of think that he was talking about the impact of the book The Shining, maybe. The impact of the movie that had just opened over there, maybe. Didn't quite fit. The wave of terror that swept across America from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, was the genocidal armies and the white men with their axe clearing it all and bringing in extractive industries, among many other good things as well. But that was the wave of terror that swept across America, terrifying, of course, the American Indians.
So often when she talks to Rochester, you notice that there's a whole way in which they keep talking about slavery. So at one point she says, you can go to the slave markets of Istanbul, if that's the kind of woman that you want. So the fact that she comes from the Caribbean, does Bertha Mason, invokes a whole history of slavery, slave exploitation, colonialism. Britain isn't at its imperial height at this point. It's only the 1840s, that comes later, but still it's a major imperial power and has been, until relatively recently, a major slaving power too.
And as we were driving up out of the car park, I was sitting in the back left seat. I was thinking, what was that? What was that? What was it? What was it? What was it? And I think my visual imagination looked at that Calumet baking powder can, the one right behind Halloran's head when he's talking to Danny. I knew what Calumet meant. It meant peace pipe. And I thought to myself, peace pipe, Indians. Oh my goodness, they're all over the place in that movie.
Loser has to keep America clean.
He's a confirmed ghost story and horror film addict.
Where Wendy walks in and the lobby is blue and you've got the cobwebs all around and it's almost like a Saturday morning kind of horror film suddenly for a second and you kind of go, ooh, what is this, with the skeletons and the cobwebs, and it's kind of cheesy. But then after that, following that, you've got her going down the red hallway, which is on the big screen. That's petrifying. So I think the kind of cheesiness before it helps set up that red hallway.
You're afraid of me.
I'm not afraid.
I can remember when I was a little boy, my grandmother and I could hold conversations entirely without ever opening our mouths. She called it shining.
What are those twins? So intertwined in their senses and feelings that they can cry out to one another across continents so close to their thoughts. This is the only explanation. It must have been half dream, half reality. A woman did enter your room last night, and that woman must have been a servant.
It was not a servant.
You know how strange things can appear between sleeping and waking.
I was not asleep. I know what I saw.
Play with us. Come and play with us, Danny. Forever and
forever and ever. Tony, I'm scared. Remember what Mr. Halloran said. It's just like pictures in a book, Danny. It isn't real.